Since the start of the pandemic, global supply chains have been hit harshly. Everything from the food we eat to the clothes we wear nowadays depends on some kind of global supply chain in one way or another. But more specialized items like microchips have been more affected than all the other goods. This is because a lot of other goods can be sourced either locally or from nearby markets, but with microchips, only a handful actually produce them. This has obviously caused problems in any industry that uses microchips. Think of automotive companies, consumer electronic companies, laptop and PC part manufacturers, and lastly, game console manufacturers. It has been nearly impossible to get your hands on the PS5 for months and months, and even if you do, it's being sold at exorbitant prices well above the MSRP through resellers. During this time, we've seen the PS5 being hoarded by scalpers, people selling the PS5 for 2 to 3 times the amount of the MSRP, and lastly, there's also been public outrage due to a newer PS5 model being launched. Let me break this all down for you. Hello everyone, it's Mike from Sabrent here, and if you enjoy tech videos and tech related videos, then make sure to hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you stay updated. First, let's look at why there's a shortage of microchips in the world right now. Almost every device that you buy requires complicated supply chains to produce these goods, as well as different supply chains for different regions in the world as well. These supply chains can be very fragile as it is, so when you put a global level pandemic on top of it, these supply chains are bound to be strained. Unlike other items in our daily lives that also depend on global supply chains, microchips are highly specialized goods. These need special machines and special talent to actually make these chips. In fact, most of the world's microchips that are being produced are in Southeast Asia, particularly in the semiconductor hub of the world, Taiwan. See, when we think about processors and chips, the first companies that come to our mind is Intel, Nvidia, and AMD. Even though these are essential companies in the microchip supply chain, these companies are actually chip designers and not manufacturers. Well, except for Intel, they have their own foundry. Microchips are manufactured in semiconductor foundries. These foundries actually make the chips that we use. The problem is that there isn't that many foundries out there that make these complex microchips that are in so high demand right now. To just understand how much of a supply chain bottleneck there is at chip foundries, let's look at Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, or TSMC. TSMC is the largest semiconductor foundry in the world. TSMC is responsible for making up almost a third of all microchips in the world, followed up by UMC at 13% market share, another Taiwanese company. Since all of the other companies depend on a handful of semiconductor foundries, a small delay like shutting down a factory for a few cases of the COVID virus can set back a foundry by weeks, and this is precisely what is happening right now. Since almost all of the global supply chain of semiconductors is reliant on a few massive foundries, any slight hiccup and the supply chain just can't meet the demand. This supply chain problem is further exacerbated by the fact that the work from home culture has become the norm in this post-pandemic era. More and more people are working from home for safety, and now companies are actually promoting working from home for happier employees and a better work-life balance. And what do you need to work from home? Computers. And it's not just that. Since many people are stuck in their homes, the demand for GPUs and APUs for gaming PCs and gaming consoles like the PS5 have also skyrocketed. So on one hand, we have less supply for microchips, and on the other hand, we have increased demand for microchips. This has created the perfect environment for a global shortage all over the world. Foundries are struggling to meet the orders for months now, and this surge in demand has led to scalpers, hoarders, and these resellers of GPUs and gaming consoles at higher prices to be more prevalent than ever. The PS5, like any other modern electronic device, needs microchips to do what they do. The PS5 at its core is a computer. In the PS5, the CPU and GPU are combined into one package called an APU. In fact, the PS5 uses AMD Zen 2 based 8-core CPU and a custom RDNA 2 GPU to power all of those fancy graphics. The problem is that since there is a limited amount of foundries, this means that if one foundry can't keep up with the demand, it's not easy to just switch, and not all foundries can produce the same chips. TSMC are known for producing some of the most advanced chips at large volume, meaning that other foundries that do not have the same process just can't compete. And there is also pretty intense competition right now to place orders for microchips. So because automotive manufacturers, mobile phone companies, and even gaming console companies, they are actually competing and actually going an extra mile to secure these orders. Companies typically place orders months or even a year in advance, and with the run up to the pandemic, many companies, obviously being cautious, actually cancelled or shrunk their future orders. However, no one anticipated certain sectors, mainly in tech, to get the massive demand it got, meaning that companies actually ended up changing their order or even tried to increase them during the pandemic. However, it's not easy just to do that, as it takes a lot of time to change how these foundries are set up, as normally they are designed around the chip that's being made, and these foundries also allocate unused manufacturing time to other companies. So when you actually cancel your order, well, you can't just go, oh, I'll just replace that order. You're now at the back of the queue. Sony also had issues leading up to the PS5 launch and reveal, which delayed their orders to the chip manufacturers. This has created a situation where there were not enough microchips to meet the demand of the PS5, and with people staying home, more people had time to game, meaning that there was an even higher demand, which then obviously is the scalper's dream, as they can buy up all of the available stock using bots and flog them on Craigslist and eBay for 2 to 3 times the price. If you're going to be stuck at home, you're going to want some kind of gaming console, and this is how the global chip shortage is really severely impacting the PS5 supply. If the increased pricing and the stock shortage wasn't enough, people looking to buy the PS5 got another shock in August when it came out that the new PS5 model was using a smaller heatsink. The new PS5 model came with a slightly new stand design and had a mysterious reduction in weight. This weight reduction was later confirmed due to the PS5 having a smaller heatsink design, thanks to a teardown video by Austin Evans, first breaking the story. The new PS5 design had a significantly smaller heatsink, and it was actually 300 grams lighter than what's found on the original first PS5. A heatsink, for those who don't know, cools the chip or chips found in a device to ensure optimal performance and temperatures. Without a proper heatsink, you'll potentially find drops in performance as well as shorter lifespan of these chips. So when the news first broke on the new PS5 having this smaller heatsink, there was blood on the streets. Fans were not happy that they were going to get a worse performing PS5 if they could actually get their hands on a hold of one. The community was initially outraged. No one wants to pay the same amount of money for an inferior product, but did the smaller heatsink actually make a difference once people actually got it in their hands? As it turned out later, not really. In fact, the newer model had better cooling performance for the CPU than the older one, but in some areas it was a little bit warmer. But most importantly, there was no gaming difference between the two heatsinks, so I wouldn't worry about which one to go for. If you can buy one, just go ahead and buy one. Even though it's expected that the global chip supply will pick up next year as foundries are expanding their manufacturing capabilities, Sony has warned fans that the PS5 supply chain might be tight throughout 2022. The CFO of Sony said that it's difficult for Sony to keep up with the demand for the PS5, and the situation is likely to continue into 2022. The demand for PS5 is still extremely high, while semiconductor manufacturing is still trying to catch up with orders. So if you are looking to snag the PS5 for yourself for a reasonable price at the moment, you might have to wait just that little bit longer. All of the reasons that I've spoken about today may not be much relief, but I wanted to make a video for those who didn't know why it was so hard to get your hands on one of these. Hopefully, once stock becomes more available, scalpers will be less interested, meaning PS5 will be in the hands of more gamers. But that's it for today. If you found this video interesting or insightful, then please hit that like button and also hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you guys can stay updated. Anyway, look after yourselves, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.